For the record, I walked in at 3:28 and you'd already started the meeting, so.
Well, they say if you aren't early, you're late, right?
The Vince Lombardi School. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing is about prioritizing the best interests of veterans over a disorganized and cumbersome bureaucracy, where all too often the interest of those it was created to serve appeared to be an afterthought. I served on this committee since I first arrived in the Senate. It's clear to all serving here, Democrats, Republicans, and I will say to the people here to testify from the VA, that supporting veterans is our highest priority. But we can't sit on our hands and not acknowledge that at times the VA has refused to take appropriate action to correct things that have gone wrong. And despite the many good things the VA does every day for veterans, things still go wrong regularly. Now, some of these are just, you got a big organization, it's going to happen. But some, like barriers to health care, lengthy delays for disability compensation, missing student housing checks, laws and regulations not being followed, and even outright fraud and wrongdoing. That's why we can't take our eyes off the ball when it comes to changing the VA for the better. Kind of like total quality management. One policy, one medical center, one regional office, one cemetery at a time. And real change requires real accountability. In 2017, Congress passed the VA Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act, giving VA the ability to hold bad employees more accountable. This included a new Section 714 authority, allowing for expedited removal, demotion, suspension of employees for poor performance or misconduct. This bipartisan bill, sponsored by Senator Rubio and Chairman Tester, helped improve both employee satisfaction and trust of veterans in the VA. By the way, important to note that VA employees liked accountability. They know that they're working hard, and there's occasional bad actor, apple or actor, and that bad actor apple, it reflects upon them all. So it improved employee satisfaction to have bad employees held accountable. Unfortunately, in recent years, actions by the courts, the FLRA, and the MSPB, as well as internal decisions by the VA, have cut back the law's most important provisions. In particular, arbitration actions between the VA and employee unions have caused the VA to cease use of Section 714 authority entirely. Because of this, a large number of fired employees have been reinstated with back pay, including some fired for, quote, grievous misconduct. I look forward to hearing more from our esteemed witnesses today on this issue. A few weeks ago at a hearing on veterans' mental health and suicide prevention, we were informed of a recent VA OIG report describing serious problems with the Veterans Crisis Line. According to the OIG, Veterans Crisis Line staff failed to take appropriate action with a veteran who died by suicide on the same night he contacted the VCL. VCL leadership interfered with the OIG investigation, and in the end, the staffer in question is still employed by the VA, while his superiors were moved to a different facility and promoted into a senior advisor role to the VHA undersecretary. I asked tough questions that day to the witnesses and received no real answers, like, for example, why weren't they fired? Maybe today we'll have an opportunity to learn why appropriate action was not taken and how we can ensure that VA staff are held accountable as they care for our nation's most important resource, our veterans. When VA employees cannot or will not do the jobs assigned, they should not continue working at the VA. Yet, at least in some areas, that is exactly what seems to be going on. That's wrong for veterans, their families, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking VA employees who do it right, and for taxpayers. When Congress first provided VA with an expedited authority to hold employees accountable, President Obama said, if you engage in an unethical practice, if you cover up a serious problem, you should be fired, period. It shouldn't be that difficult, close quote. That was true then, it's true today. I yield. I understand that you are responsible for investigating VA leadership. Again, I mentioned earlier my concerns regarding the Veterans Crisis Hotline. The VA Inspector General uncovered systemic issues at the VCL, and that the VCL director for quality and training provided advice and incorrect information to witnesses, potentially compromising the accuracy and integrity of the IG investigation. The executive director called off a necessary root cause analysis following a patient's suicide, stating, quote, "There is insufficient information for us to really move forward." The root cause analysis only initiated after the VA received notice of an IG investigation. And I also am told that this person remains in a leadership position at the Veterans Crisis Hotline, and that the Veterans Crisis Executive Director was promoted to a senior executive role at VA headquarters, now serving as a senior advisor in the Secretary's office. Whoa. Are you aware of the IG report? And how is this kind of, explain this in a way which makes us feel better about the process taking place?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I'm not aware of whether OAWP has a specific investigation in that matter, but I believe Mr. Perry can provide some additional illumination on your question.
Thank you, Senator Cassidy, for that question. To your point, we do have the findings of the OIG report that came back early last month, so we are in the process of reviewing the recommendations and findings of that report. The actual event itself, as tragic as it is, as we all know, there were some opportunities for us to look at the process and procedures that were in place, and some changes have been made already to account for those changes that needed to be taken. And so retraining occurred for those crisis responders, and then also looking at the process of who can fill in when those positions need to be staffed adequately. And so those changes have already occurred in the actual procedures itself. The supervisor you mentioned is still in staff, but they are not in a direct veteran crisis responder role. They're
But that is beside the point as regards the supervisor's role. The question is, if they interfere with an investigation, as is alleged, they shouldn't be in any role. Why would you have any faith in the integrity of what they did when apparently what they have already done was to interfere with an investigation and to tamper with an investigation?
Yes, sir, and we agree with you, and so that is what we're currently reviewing, are those findings.
You said that you received this report early last month.
About 3, maybe 4 weeks ago at most.
So alacrity comes to mind, or the lack thereof. I mean, you've had 4 weeks to investigate something which is fairly significant. This isn't a traffic ticket. This is something which may have did result in somebody's death, and which interfere with an investigation. So we're about accountability. When will you be complete? If not, 4 weeks is not enough.
4 weeks was just from the time we received the OIG report. It is actively being reviewed now.
And so when will your active review be through?
I can't give you a timeline.
I got to tell you, 4 weeks seems plenty enough time to investigate.
Agree, sir. It is on the top of our priority list to make sure.
If it's
we
on the
take
top of your
necessary
priority
action.
list and it's 4 weeks and it still hasn't been done, it suggests to me that your priorities, again, lack alacrity, urgency, a reason to get on top of it right away. And I don't think I'm being hard here. If there's a problem in my house, I don't wait 4 weeks to fix it. This person has been elevated as a senior advisor. I mean, elevated after this was alleged. So again, tell us in the Committee of Oversight why we should have confidence in your processes.
Sir, the report that we received from the OIG is not a full investigative file, and so we are working through that process now to look at all the underlying evidence, and recommendations and corrective actions will be taken upon that review.
So, Mr. Perry, briefly, how are employees rated? I've been told by people in the VA workforce that it really depends on who you know. So, what is the qualitative measures used to rate somebody?
So we put the performance measures in everyone's standards performance plans, and they're measured accordingly based on their performance. And so that is consistently across by occupation.
And who judges their performance?
Their first level supervisor, and that's
directly
reviewed by their
above.
second level.
And do you have any sense of this person who's in question, what their evaluations have shown in the past?
Sir, I'm not I don't have access to their actual performance information, but that will be something that does get taken under review.
Okay, I yield.